I want to tell you a story.
A couple months ago, I was planning my second trip to Taiwan. I had gone in November of last year, and it captivated me.
I wanted to go back and find some interesting stories that weren't being told.
So one night, I'm having drinks with my friend Sherry, who grew up in Taipei, and I'm telling her all about my upcoming trip and my ideas to film. And she goes, "Did you know there's an island named Kinmen where they make knives?" "No," I said, "but why is that interesting?" "They're made out of bombshells from the Chinese Civil War."
That is really interesting.
Alright, so what and where is Kinmen? Kinmen is a group of islands 6 miles from China, right across the Taiwan Strait. It's governed by Taiwan, but it has its own identity.
Look at the colors on that mural.
The history there is fascinating. Humans have been on the island for thousands of years, but the first recorded settlers date back to the Jin dynasty, about 1700 years ago. The name Kinmen, which actually comes from Jinmen, means Golden Gate in Chinese. Today, even though the island isn't hidden by any means, it's still not terribly popular with tourists, even Taiwanese tourists.
Oh my god, it looks like there's nobody over here. There's only a couple other tourists here.
Okay, so to give you an idea of how infrequently traveled Kinmen is, even by the Taiwanese, when I asked a friend of mine who's a government employee in Taiwan what to do on Kinmen, he basically responded, "I don't know. I've never been there. Don't know much about it."
But I had a one-way ticket, and I was determined to find these sorcerers of steel.
But first, 40 seconds of history.
In 1949, when the Nationalist Party withdrew to Taiwan to re-establish itself, it basically made Kinmen into a fortress. The island's proximity to the mainland, and also the fact it was part of Fujian province for centuries, made it a highly contested site. There were several key battles fought there between the PRC and the ROC. Over the next 20 years, starting in 1958, over 500,000 artillery shells were fired on Kinmen from the mainland. Some were live rounds, others were filled with leaflets of propaganda. They say there's so many shells in the ground that you can't build anything without finding some. So I flew to Kinmen, rented a scooter, drove across the island, and checked into this 18th century inn. I had no story, no leads, nothing. My plan was to try to find anybody, literally anyone making a knife, and then string together some sort of story in post. But when I checked into this inn, I asked the owner if he knew anyone involved who could help me get a story. 10 minutes later, he comes back and says, "Can you meet me at 9:30 a.m. tomorrow?"
So here we are at Maestro Wu's, which is a knife manufacturer that still makes the knives out of the artillery shells.
This is not some ordinary blacksmith. This is the guru of gurus for Kinmen knives. And today, completely unbeknownst to me, he's gonna kick all the tourists out and make a knife from scratch, just so I can film it.
Letting us go inside.
His name is Maestro Wu, and he's a third-generation blacksmith here on Kinmen, the pioneer of this art form.
They're letting us go inside, which is incredibly nice of them.
Okay, so basically, here's how the knives are made. He picks a shell, and then he torches off a small part he's gonna use. He throws it in the furnace, and it gets super freaking hot, around 2000 degrees Fahrenheit. In this stage, he's forming the general shape of the knife through a process called heat forging. It involves going back and forth between the hydraulic press and the furnace.
What type of knife is this?
Oh, 登山啊. Oh, that is for hiking outside. Hiking.
It's a hiking knife.
Yeah.
Once he's got the shape of the knife that he wants, he begins the heat treatment of the metal, which involves controlling how the metal cools in order to determine the actual strength of the metal. So depending on how fast or slow you cool the metal, determines how strong the metal is. And when it's reached the appropriate temperature, he begins grinding the knife, which is essentially like sanding it down. And it's during this stage that the knife begins to really look like the final product, as he begins honing and crafting the bevel edge, which makes the actual blade.
Basically, I'm asking him through the help of a friend if this is a bit of a dying art or if it's becoming more popular. My friend Ting over here was telling me, in fact, people do this way less than they did once upon a time for economic reasons, and it requires a certain level of skill. So if you want to make money fast in the knife business, you don't do this.
And once that's done, he finds a handle, and through pressure just fixes it onto the knife. A little more honing and some polishing, and we're done.
Is this knife completely done?
哦，都完成了吗？全部都完成了。
对。
Yeah, finished.
Wow,
Done.
it's done.
It's done.
像这个
That was a royal simplification of a lifetime of mastery and skill. But now you kind of know what's going on.
No, this kind of machine.
All this is new.
Yeah.
So when he was a kid, there were no machines. He had to do everything by hand. Are there people from a certain area of the world besides Taiwan that this is really popular with? Is there a country?
Yeah, such as like Europe, American.
So when he was a kid, he would stand on this side and use the bigger mallet.
one, yeah.
But now that he's a master, he stands on this side where his
Yeah.
father stood.
Yeah, yeah.
And he uses the smaller one.
Yeah, different tool.
Different tool.
Yeah.
装传单、梳妆这个。Oh wow, that's.
I can't believe this. He's giving me this knife as a gift. He's leaving a little bit of the roughness in the knife right there as a memory
Yeah,
of the battle,
the battle.
and a memory of the shell. Are there more shells, propaganda shells, than battle shells?
差不多. They're very equal.
Very equal. Kind of like in Rome, whenever they dig, they find artifacts of the Roman Empire. When they make buildings here, new buildings in Kinmen, they dig and they find artillery shells. Okay.
感谢.
Why did you move to Kinmen?
为什么你要来金门？我是跟家人一起来的。With her family to Kinmen from
Really?
Taipei.
Is that common?
Some people study here and stay here, but she is not. She's come with her family, so
So
it's
they-
not quite common.
It's not quite common. I've heard because I've heard people moving from Taipei or Kinmen to
To
Taipei.
Taipei, opposite way.
But seems like the opposite way.
Yeah, yeah. So it's you know that it's not very often.
Is your family originally from Kinmen? Years ago?
你的家人是金门人吗？No.
Wow. Okay.
Taipei. This morning only for you.
That is so kind.
是特别为了他。
I was expecting basically none of this morning. I don't really have words right now. That was wow.
Whoa. All right, there's one thing left to do. Let's go.
What is this?
Open it up.
Oh, Jesus.
It's from Kinmen. It's a Kinmen knife from Maestro Wu.
Oh, wow. Oh, thank you. Oh, my God.
So they gave me this for free as a thank you, and the only reason I went to Kinmen and got that great story was because of you.
Oh, my God.
And so I want you to have it.
Thank you so much. Oh. God, be careful. Jesus.